Okay, good morning, everyone. Buckle your seatbelts. We're ready to get. Isn't it a beautiful day? A beautiful day. Someone called me a liar today. We have some people visiting from Illinois, and I said, listen, if you're considering moving here, it never gets any hotter than this right here. And they looked up and said, you better watch out, Pastor. You better watch out. Oh, but this is the most beautiful weather around, and we're glad that you're here. We're going to jump right in. Let me say a prayer and just thank you for coming and pray God's blessings upon our study. God, as we jump in today to the Song of Songs, it's sometimes I feel way above my pay grade. It's difficult to interpret and to understand, but my hope and prayer is that we will get some biblical truths that we can apply to our lives as we leave today. In Jesus' name, amen. You ever feel like there's nothing to watch on TV? My wife and I, we used to go to dates to the movie just to get away alone and for the popcorn and the drink. And you ever look to the movies and there's nothing you can watch? It's all rated R, this or this or this or that. Yeah, it's just, and even if you look at the old rating systems, you know, the rating systems aren't what they used to be as far as what is accepted or borderline there. Well, some people might say the Song of Songs should have a rating on it, you know, that it's not suitable for certain audiences right there. And as a pastor, I even get a little bit fearful when I start reading some of these words and the descriptions they have in this wonderful book. Well, I'm reading it. It says the Book of Songs is also called the Song of Solomon. It is a song written by Solomon to his bride. Now, let me give this a disclaimer because somebody's already questioned me. They said, a song written by Solomon to his bride. Well, which bride? Okay, he had quite a few of them. So we're going to talk about which one as we get on later today. But historical records have found over 1,000 songs. Maybe it's one for every bride. Maybe that's what it is, okay? The title literally means the finest of all songs, implying that this was his best. The purpose is to tell of the love between King Solomon and his bride. The author is Solomon. It was written around 971 BC. It is included in the Bible, but has been subjected to all kinds of interpretations. Most scholars will say that Song of Songs is one of the more difficult books in the Bible to interpret. And that you could go either way on that. I think the prophetic and the apocalyptic literature is more difficult in that. But the reason is that you have to decide for yourself how you're going to interpret it. And two ways of interpretation would be as an allegory or as an historical literal thing. An allegory simply it's a symbol of something, saying that it's not really talking about two people, but it's a symbol of a greater human condition. And it describes the human condition and it's just a picture of God's love for his people or Christ's love for the church. But I like that. I think it can be both and. But I think it's a literal. I'll go with the historical, literal interpretation that is really Solomon in love with a single person here. And it describes his love for her and how he loved her and how she loved him. But there's still the application to God's love for us and how we are to love God and how Christ is the bridegroom and we, the church, we are the bride of Christ. So if I were to put a practical purpose, you'll hear me talk a lot today about love and marriage. Okay, it's a picture of love and marriage. Though at first this seems strange, on reflection, it's not surprising that God included this in the Bible. Because I know I'm going through a topical series right now, but most of you who know me know that 99% of the time I just preach through the Bible. I like to go verse by verse. We're doing the book of Daniel as soon as this series is over. But what we'll do after that, when I do this, what I've always discovered, every topic you could ever imagine is in God's Word. So that's why I don't feel like I have to preach topical sermons all the time, because if you just go through the Bible, he touches on every single topic that you've ever imagined, a principle of that topic, and Solomon is no exception, okay? So we're going to jump into that and see some of those that are here today. And we're going to hear a lot. You'll hear the word sex a lot. You'll hear the word love a lot, romance a lot, intimacy a lot, but it's a picture of God's view of intimacy intimacy and God's view of romantic love as opposed to Hollywood's wood who distorts God's beauty and God's intentions for romance and intimacy in a marriage. All right? So in the second paragraph, it says, some interpret this as an allegory with Solomon symbolizing God and his bride, the people of Israel. Christians may see it as a symbol of Christ's love for his bride, the church. Others interpret it as literally and view this song as a celebration of the kind of love that God has established between a husband and a wife. The literal approach proclaims the profound message of joy of two people whom God has brought together. The joy of two people and the romance and the intimacy and the love two people can have in the bond of Christian marriage. It's a moving story filled with drama and dialogue. The main character, talk about a movie. This could be a movie, okay? I don't know what to be rated, but it could be a movie, okay? The main characters are a simple Jewish maiden and her lover, who is King Solomon. In their dialogue, they describe in intimate detail their feelings one for another and their longing to be together. Throughout this dialogue, the topics of sex and marriage are put in their proper God-given perspective. And as we study this most interesting book in the Bible, our goal is to see how truly loved by God we are and respond to his love, and how we are to love our spouses and respond to their love. So let's start by looking at the key people. Solomon, he's the writer. We know Solomon, son of King David. He inherited the throne from King David, and when he first became king, God said, ask for anything and I will give it to you. He did not ask for money or fame or riches or fortune. He asked for a discerning heart to rule and guide his people. God was so pleased that he didn't ask for selfish things, but he asked for wisdom. God gave him both. Just like a parent, don't you just love to bless your children? Don't you just love to bestow, especially when you see their hearts are genuine and the hearts are good, you just want to give them any. And that's what God did to Solomon. And Solomon became the wisest and the wealthiest king in all of the world. And we talked about later, he grew up and he grew away from God, but in his prime, he had more money, more homes, more material possessions, more wives, more anything you can ever imagine. But one is going to stand out today. One out of all the wives and concubines is going to stand out. And who is she? She is the Shulamite woman. Some Bibles call it the Shunammite or Shulamite. She's a commoner. Some I'm not trying to get you confused, but some scholars say this is the Queen of Bathsheba here. I don't think so, but some people say that. But because we believe, most scholars say that Solomon would go around his kingdom and just look at his projects and check on these buildings and palaces and forts and fortresses there. And one day he went by a vineyard in the town of Shuna. It's a town in northern Galilee near Mount Gilboa. On my trips, I've seen Mount Gilboa. I don't know if that town, where that town is, if it's a real town still today. But he looks in the vineyard and he just sees one working in the vineyard. And he just falls for her. He falls for her. And that's the beginning of the attraction that Solomon has for her. The Shunammite or the Shunammite woman right there. And then the daughters of Jerusalem, there'll be a compare and contrast when she talks to all the other girls in the palace in Jerusalem right there. The themes, number one, it's love. Love. Song of Songs tells us the story of true love between King Solomon and his young bride. The intimate love affected their hearts, their minds, and their bodies. Sex, Song of Songs speaks candidly on this topic. It's important for us to understand in its context, it's a beautiful gift from God and should not be neglected. God created for man and woman to enjoy this in the boundaries of the marriage relationship. Commitment. Marriage is the celebration of two people who have committed their lives one to another. I always tell people, love is not a feeling. Love, you hear me say this. You've heard my definition of love. People will tell me, love is a feeling. Love is the commitment of your will to your spouse's needs and best interests, regardless of the cost. That's my definition of love. Love is a commitment. You choose to love. Love is the commitment of your will to your spouse's needs and best interests, regardless of the cost. What that means is you love when you feel like loving, and you love when you don't feel like loving. You can't choose. I don't feel like loving today. I don't feel like doing that. No. Love is not a feeling. It's a choice. It's a choice. You choose to love. The next theme is beauty. The two lovers in Song of Songs will praise the beauty they see in each other. The language they use shows the creativity and mystery of true love. It reminds us to see beauty not only on the outside, but the inner beauty that overflows from within. This Sunday, I'll be preaching from Proverbs 31, just a beautiful passage. If you want to see what true beauty is all about. And when you see, you can see beyond the exterior. And some people compare, I'm not going to go that far, compare the Shunammite woman to Esther, and just a simple person who heard their natural beauty rose them above all the other princesses and royalty in there. But the beauty was more also natural and on the inside there. And then the final theme will be problems. As problems entered into the marriage, feelings of loneliness, indifference, isolation came between Solomon and his bride. And the bottom line is all marriages have problems. And it's how you deal with those problems that will determine the happiness and the joy you have. So let's jump in. I've divided up in about 5 areas. Chapters 1 and 2 talk about the wedding day. Let me read verses 1 through 4. Chapter 1, 1 through 4. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. For your love is better than wine. Your anointing oils are fragrant. Your name is oil poured out. Therefore virgins love you. Draw me after you. Let us run. The king has brought me into his chambers. We will exalt and rejoice in you. We will extol your love more than wine. Rightly do they love you. Oh, she's in love. Do you remember the first time you saw your spouse? We believe it's possible Solomon may have been riding down the road. He sees a girl in the fields and says, I got to meet that girl. I got to meet that girl. And he was just consumed with meeting her. Some of you can remember the first time. Don't just anybody raise your hand. You remember the first time you saw your spouse? I can remember that. All right. And it was I was the youth minister at the First Baptist Church of El Paso, Texas. I was giving the announcements, and Lisa was on row number 6. Okay. She was in the singles department between 2 guys. Okay. And so I didn't know who she was, but from that moment, I was determined to meet her and for her to see me. We had that afternoon, we had a mission. We lived down near the border in El Paso. We had a missions project in the park across the street from the church, and I was coming back and forth from the park, and the singles had lunch at the church, and they were sitting around talking. I made 4 trips back and forth just so I could walk beside her and say hi to her, do that. And so it was. I was determined to work it out so that I could meet her. But I'll never forget the first time I saw her. I knew I wanted to meet her. So she was attractive on the outside. The more I got to know her on the inside, she is even more attractive. It says King Solomon frequently visited the various parts of his kingdom. One day, as he visited some royal vineyards in the north, he saw a beautiful peasant woman tending the vines. Embarrassed, she hid when she saw him approaching. But Solomon could not forget her. Later, disguised as a shepherd, he returned to the vineyards and won her love. He then revealed his true identity and asked her to return to Jerusalem with him. Solomon and this woman were being married in the palace as this book begins. The opening verses describe the celebration of their love. How does this new bride describe love according to verses 1 through 4? She says, love is better than wine. Love is a pleasing fragrance. Now, you try to think, what's the most beautiful thing in that term? Maybe wine was the most exclusive thing, or the fragrance, I might say better than French fries or something, whatever's appealing to you, something like that. And but her love is better than wine, better than fragrance or perfume. So look over in verses 8. I want to read Psalms 1, 8 through 10. If you do not know, O most beautiful among women, follow in the tracks of the flock and pasture your young goats. beside the shepherd's tent. I compare you, my love, to a mare among the Pharaoh's chariots. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments. Your necks are with strings of jewels. They're just pouring on compliments about how beautiful he is, how handsome, how beautiful she is. I mean, basically what he says, you look like a horse, okay? but understand the context of the beautiful. Some people would say horses are the most beautiful of all creatures, of all of Pharaoh's chariots. He says, one of the beautiful mares, you are right there. Well, she was more beautiful than that. Okay, in chapter 2, his bride describes herself as a rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. Now, this is important because we think of this beautiful, but in Bible times, these were common flowers found in Israel. Perhaps he was saying that she was just an ordinary flower and nothing special. But how does Solomon respond to this in chapter 2, verse 2? He says, as a lily among the brambles, so is my love among the woman. He says, you are like a lily among thorns right there. That's what he says. A lily. Remember, she was a commoner. She was a worker in the fields. She was not royalty. She was not a princess. She was a common flower in her own eyes. She was very humble, okay? But if she describes herself as humble and simple, Solomon says, you're not just a lily. You're a lily among thorns. And just of all the other, you're the most beautiful of all. So beautiful right there. All right, then we're going to pick up the second section would be memories of courtship. I'm going to spend a lot of time here. In this section, Solomon's beloved reflects on her courtship with Solomon, remembering the first day they met and recalling one of her dreams about them being together. As they come together as husband and wife and enjoy the bliss of true love. As a worker in the vineyard, she sometimes had to rid the vineyard of foxes, they who were intent on destroying the vineyard. Read Song of Songs 2:15 and describe the warning issued by Solomon. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards, for our vineyards are in blossom. So what does Solomon teach? We need to catch the foxes that are ruining the vineyard or our marriage. We need to catch the foxes that are ruining our vineyard or our marriage. You see, because what he does here, he's likening the marriage relationship to a vineyard or a garden. And just like a vineyard or a garden, you need to tend to it and get out the weeds and water it and keep it fresh and make sure that the bugs or the foxes or the rodents don't come and eat it up. There's an ever-present danger, and just one night they can come in and they can eat away and ruin your garden. So they knew these little foxes, and Solomon was saying the same thing's going to happen in your marriage. They come in to destroy your plants. Before you know it, your garden is destroyed. So describe how this warning applies to marriage today. I wrote this. We need to constantly care for and tend to our marriages. We need to constantly care for and tend to our marriages. On your handout, I got an old sermon I preached years ago called Foxes in the Garden, and I just put my 5 points down there. I put that there's a fox that desires to creep into the garden of your marriage and destroy it. These foxes are sly and quick and conniving. Usually they come in at night when you're sleeping and you don't even realize they're there. But suddenly they nip here and they nip here and they nip here, and before you know it, your marriage is in trouble. A lot of people say don't sweat the small stuff, but I say sweat the small stuff because it's the little things, the little foxes that they keep nibbling here and nibbling here, that when they add up, that they become big things. So when it comes to marriage, you need to stop the foxes way out here, okay? Don't let them even come in, because once you let them in, they nibble and they nibble and they nibble, and before you know it, they can ruin your marriage. Let me give you about 6 foxes that as a pastor that I've encountered. I call it the fox of role reversal, and that's a big fox because men. Let me talk to the men. God's called you to be the spiritual leader of your home. And I'm not this role reversal is not to talk about the women. It's to tell you that men need to be men. And I think most women would say, if my man would lead, I'd follow him. I want the spiritual leader. We're going to talk about this weekend when we talk about feminism and our culture today. But the Bible has so much to say about although men and women are created equal, men and women are both created in God's image, they have different roles. And man is to be the head of the home. But men, I always say we got too many sissy husbands and bossy wives, you know. We need men to be men and take up the mantle and say, I'm going to lead this family right there. And so, but when they don't lead, sometimes it's by default the woman has to lead or feels like she's but when you start reversing the roles, that's a fox, I guarantee you. And so when you start reversing the roles, and so the men don't become men and the women aren't the women, those are foxes. The marriage can eat away at your marriage. How about the fox of intimacy stagnation? The fox of intimacy stagnation. We're going to read later on. There's one time, I think it's in chapter 3 or 4, where Solomon comes in and he sees his beautiful bride. He's implying he wants intimacy, okay? But she said, boy, do I have to put my robe on again? I've already got ready for bed. And all of a sudden, she goes to bed and wakes up and he's gone. He's gone. And she goes out looking for him. We're going to see that. She's looking for him. And the principle I share a lot of times with young couples who are planning to get married is that you need to keep intimacy alive. And women, I would tell them, and be careful, and we're adults here, I would say, because you are the weaker vessel, sometimes do not use intimacy as a pawn or a tool or a reward. Do you follow what I'm saying? And so don't refuse, because one of the weakest things about men is their ego. Okay, and if they get rejected, they go, and that's what happened to Solomon. And friends, I don't care what happens, man, woman, man, wife, husband, wife. If your needs, you need to meet their needs. Love is the commitment of my will to your wife's needs, to your husband's needs and best interests. And if needs are met in the marriage relationship, there's no need to go anywhere else. But most of the time, needs aren't being met, and the human nature is they say, I've got needs. And so intimacy stagnation. So strive to meet the intimacy needs. Number 3, the fox of time ill spent. The fox, and so what happens, is we grow apart. And I hope we don't run out of time. I included, we need to spend time together. You don't need to, when you become married, you become one. And you don't go in different directions. Some of you already read the poem by Harry Chapin. It says, we got married early and just a little bit late. Baby came too early, but some things just can't wait. We were just beginning, but it was very clear we grew up a little bit that year. I caught on as a meter man. You were caught at home. When I started night school, you ended up alone. But you had another baby while I had my career. We grew up a little bit. We grew up a little bit that year. They put me in an office job, a young man on the move. We bought a house in Shaker Heights. You supervised the move. We were cashing checks. You were changing children while I played engineer. We were growing up ever faster every year. But I got bored with kilowatts. You got tired of kids. I started staying out at night, and soon that's what you did. At parties, we would go separately. You would wiggle and I would leer, and we were growing ever faster every year. You learned to live in silence. I learned to live in lies, and we both ignored the empty spaces growing in our eyes. Your breath became a gin and tonic, and mine became a beer, and we grew up a little more last year. Today at work, they passed me by. They promoted John instead. I came home to find you had wrecked the car. I guess I lost my head. I can't believe I hit you, but the rage came on so strong. Oh, where did we go wrong? As you sit there crying, I wonder who you are, the partner, stranger, friend, and foe who has come with me this far. We stand here in the ashes, and I guess it is quite clear we did not really grow too much each year. You say we're going nowhere. Well, I know that's where we've been. Still, I can't wonder, can we begin again? I feel so full of questions, curiosity, and fear, but could we grow a little bit? Could we grow a little bit? Can we grow a little bit this year? And that's not a scriptural thing. It's just a powerful. And when I look at my life and the marital counseling I've done, that describes so many people. How many times have people, it's not biblical grounds for divorce, hear me, but they say, we just grew apart. That's why time ill spent. You do things together. Even, my wife and I, we walk every morning at 5 o'clock, and that's our time together. We exercise, we walk together. We do things every date. Friday afternoon is date day. I always have three things. You dialogue daily, you date weekly, you destinate quarterly. That's what we've been doing for 30 years. Yeah, dialogue daily, date weekly, and destinate quarterly right here. So it's just, you've got to spend not just quality time, but quantity time together. Quantity and quality time together. Time is so important. And you know what? It doesn't matter how much money you've all got the same amount of time. You've all got 24 hours a day. It depends how you spend your time. All right? So, turn to page 114. Let me read the memories of engagement. Okay, chapter 3 opens with his beloved recalling a dream that troubled her when she arose in the middle of the night and she could not find her husband. She was worried about him and searched all night. The scene then changes to memories of their wedding celebration. That's the scene I told you, that she maybe refused him and he got mad and left, and then she went looking for him. And so that's where I said, always try to meet the needs. And I know I'm talking to a more mature group, but I have so many couples who would come into me, and they would always say, the best way for a husband or a wife to get your needs met is not focus on your needs, focus on meeting the needs of your spouse. If you'll focus on their needs, you're more likely to get your needs met. But if you're always concerned about my needs, no one's ever going to satisfy right there. Let me read chapter 4, 1 through 8. These 8 verses are probably repeated 3 different ways. Behold, you are beautiful, my love. Behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are doves behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats leaping down the slopes of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of shorn ewes that have come up from the washing, all of which bears twins, and not one of them has lost its young. Your lips are like scarlet thread, and your mouth is lovely. Your cheeks are like halves of pomegranates behind your veil. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built in rows of stone. On it hang 1,000 shields, all of them shields of warriors. Your 2 breasts are like fawns, twins of a gazelle. They graze among the lilies until the day breeze and the shadows flee. And I will go away to the mountain of myrrh and the hill of frankincense. You are altogether beautiful, my love. There is no flaw in you. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. Depart from the peak of Amana and go to the peak of Senir and Hermon, from the dens of lions, from the mountains of leopards. You've captivated my heart. Do you see, isn't it beautiful how he sounds praises on his wife? I mean, he says, your eyes are like doves. Your hair like goats. Your teeth, you're not even missing 2 teeth, okay? You even got all your teeth. What more could you ask for, okay? She's got all her teeth right there. And so, I mean, in the most beautiful way, he just expresses praise on her. And I just think, so I just love to hear people praising their spouse. And some of you have been married 50, 60 years, and you're still holding hands walking down the road. And that's just, well, what a great inspiration that is. I want us all to let people not just hear, but to see that you are in love and you still think that they're beautiful every single time. So it's a beautiful thing. So I told Lisa yesterday, today is Lisa's birthday. She's not here. My younger son's taking her to lunch in downtown Phoenix, and so she's going to lunch with her. But is Carol here? Carol Jacobson, is she here? So Carol told Lisa, putting up with my sermons and all my talks, she deserves more than a birthday. She needs a birth week. So we've gone out 3 times. So we went to. Our favorite restaurant is Pappadeaux's. We went to Pappadeaux's on Friday, and yesterday we went to Tommy Bahama. That's her favorite restaurant over there. But today was the birthday. Save the best for last. And you know she's a classy lady. You know that, don't you? So she's my all-star. I got the all-star special at Waffle House this morning. All right. So she deserves it. She's done nothing too good for her. You ask her where she went for her birthday, she'll tell you Waffle House. All right. So look at number 4. I want to read chapter 5, verse 16. Chapter 5, verse 16. I like this verse. His mouth is most sweet, and he is altogether desirable. This is my beloved, and this is my what? Friend. Is your spouse your best friend? That's what you want. You want to have your best friend to go there. So that's what you love. You want to have that time. But that's why you can't grow apart. You need to find those interests that you have together. I'm not a big reader apart from study. All my study is reading, but what we'll do together, we read together. When we don't read deep stuff, we probably read the Pilgrim's Progress 5 times, where she reads a paragraph, I read a paragraph. She reads a paragraph, I read a paragraph. It just keeps us together, and we'll stop and discuss things like that. But it's just time spent together to do that, and we love to travel. I told you, we went to Tombstone 2 weeks ago, and we like to do day trips and see different things in Arizona. All right, so a third section describes how their marriage grew and matured in spite of problems, and indifferences were creeping into their marriage. He had reached out to her, and she had not responded. When she finally did respond, he had gone. She then seeks to find him and reconcile. Even in her distress, the final verse of chapter 5 describes her love for her husband right there. So you've heard me say that marriage is 3 stages: the wonderful stage, the war stage, and the work stage. The engagement, wonderful, everything's perfect, you're all together lovely. Then the war stage, that's when they come and say the problem with her is, or the problem with him is, and then you get to the work stage. That's when you say, all right, this is tough, this is work. We're going to work it out. And so you got to keep working through those problems, and when you have a problem, always remember those 3 important words. Anybody know what they are? I love you. No, let's eat out. Okay, let's eat out. Okay, I love you is just second right there. Okay, but whatever works. Okay, no, love. Keep love. I set him up on that one. Okay. How about number 5? In fact, look at chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. I love to pick out things. He says, you have captivated my heart, my sister, my bride. You have captivated my heart with one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. How beautiful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much better is your love than wine, the fragrance of your oils or any spice. 4, 9, and 10. And so when he says the right, more beautiful, he talks about that. And one of them, maybe I got the wrong one. It says, my heart beats faster. You're better than wine. You're better than strong spices right there. All right? Solomon had many wives and concubines during his reign as king of Israel. This was common in Bible times. Even though he had many wives, he declares that his love for her has not diminished since their wedding night, even though many other wives and concubines were available to him. Read Songs 6, 4 through 10, and write in the space below what he says about her. Chapter 6, verses 4 through 10. You are beautiful as Tirzah, my love, lovely as Jerusalem, awesome as an army with banners. Turn away your eyes from me, for they overwhelm me. Your hair is like a flock of goats leaping down. Your teeth, this is very similar to what we said before. One cheeks are like halves of pomegranates behind your veil. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. My dove, my perfect one, is the only one of her mother, pure to her who bore her. The young women saw her and called her blessed. The queens and concubines also, and they praised her. Who is this who looks down like the dawn, beautiful as the moon, bright as the sun, awesome as an army with banners? Once again, heaps on praise. Maybe you've seen the book many times called The 5 Love Languages, and find out what your spouse's love languages is. And I didn't study this, but I'm going to guess words of praise, deeds of service, receiving gifts. Help me out. Quality time, and there's one more that's not. It goes there. So, but anyway, a lot of times that my wife's love languages are quality time and deeds of service. Okay, my love language are words of praise and receiving gifts. Okay, and so if you're not careful, you will love your spouse in the way you want to be loved. You follow me? And I told you when I get married, I would work all day and I'd come home and say, "Oh, you're beautiful, you're wonderful. Here's some flowers. Hey, won't be home. Got to work late today. Love you." And I'd go, and I felt like she should be loved because I praised her and I gave her gifts. But she didn't feel loved because I didn't take out the trash, I didn't wash the dishes, and I didn't have time for her that day. So find out what their love languages is, and then you could tell Solomon was heaping praises on his spouse right there. All right? The number 6 is called the power of love. The power of love. So, chapter 7, verses 10 through 13, she invites him away into the country where they can be alone. Read these verses and describe how this is essential for marriages even today. Chapter 7, verses 10 through 13. I am my beloved, and his desire is for me. Come, my beloved, let us go out into the fields and lodge in the villages. Let us go out early to the vineyards and see whether the vines have budded, whether the grape blossoms have opened, and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes give forth fragrance, and beside our doors are all choice fruits, new as well as old, which I've laid up for you, my beloved. So, bottom line, we need to spend quality time with our spouse. We need to destinate. Remember, you dialogue daily, date weekly, destinate. You need to go to the country. We live in a big city. Did you know it? 6:10 this morning, the freeway was bumper to bumper. Yeah, I just go in there. I said, but Waffle House was worth it, okay? And so we went there. And we live in a big, big city. That's why the beauty about Phoenix is you're just an hour or two from some of those most beautiful, quaint country little towns. You know, we went up to Jerome. We went out to we go to Cottonwood. We'll go to Sedona. We'll go to different places like that. And we went to Talisman West earlier here. So we destinate and go out into the country where it's quiet and peaceful. And we just like the long drives because one-on-one and talk. We one-on-one talk. She likes it because she's got my undivided attention. You know, when we're at church, I'm just going to hear more. But when she's got me right there in the car, then we can talk. But go out in the country. Plan those trips. I'm one of those people. The anticipation of vacation is usually better than the vacation itself. Anybody can relate to that? I just like to have something on the calendar. Something on the calendar. It's coming. It's coming. I look forward to it. Usually before I get home for that one, I'm already planning the next one. It may not even go, but destinate that. All right, that's chapter 7. And let me look at chapter 8, verses 6 and 7. Set me as a seal upon your heart, a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death. Jealousy is fierce as the grave. It flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If a man offered for love all the wealth of his house, he would be utterly despised. In this final description of their love, the girl includes some of the characteristics of true love. Reminds me of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 in the New Testament. And there's so many things that these are what we aspire for. We fall short because we're sinful people. We're human. We don't always measure up. But if I've done 200 weddings, I don't know how many weddings I've done over the years, but I probably have, Pastor David, I may have 8 or 9 different scriptures that I'll do a wedding ceremony of, but probably 75% of the people want 1 Corinthians 13 to do that. I can do it right there. And love is patient. Are you patient? Or are you impatient? Think about it. If you're going to love someone, you need to strive to be patient. Come on, honey. Come on now. We're going to be late. We're going to be late, And patient. Love is kind. Why is it that sometimes we are more cruel to the people we love more than we are to a stranger on the street? You follow me? My wife said, Rob, you'll open the door for a total stranger and hit me in the nose with it, And so sometimes we think about other people, but kind. Be kind. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. It's not jealous. I love what he says. I love my beloved loves me. Be content, be secure in your spouse's love. Love does not envy. I don't envy, especially someone else's wife or someone else's things. True love. I'm very, very content with what we have. We even say, we were walking this morning. It's a beautiful day. You just couldn't. she's going downtown Phoenix today. She said, this just couldn't get any better. Life is great, great. But I got, says, well, she hates to drive downtown. You're going to get in a car wreck today, and you're going to change things. If she gets in a car wreck, it's all on me today. But it's just perfect. Everything, you're happy. We live in Sun City, Arizona. Got a great church, great family, great house, great life. But just God, thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Just don't envy that. Love is not arrogant. Ha! We're better than you. We got it better than you. And so arrogant. Love is not prideful. Love does not seek its own. That's probably one of the keys in marriage. Are you seeking your own desire, your own way, your own will? Or are you putting others? I always talk about the joy principle. J-O-Y, Jesus, others, you. Put Jesus first, others second. As Gail Sayer said, and I am third, okay? Love is not irritable, So sometimes we get tired, get hungry. That's when I get irritable, my wife says, I get tired or hungry right there. It's just try. But you can do things. If that's it, she would say, Rob, eat your breakfast. I don't diet well, but I'll skip meals. And then she don't want to be around me. So love is not irritable with each other. They deserve better than that. You've heard me say this. Love keeps no record of wrongs. That's one of the best things. Some of you got a list that you've got stuck in your pocket of what your spouse has done for you for the past 13 years. You haven't even told it to them, but when they accuse you or something, you're ready to pull it all out and say, okay, buddy, if you want to get and play that game, and we keep a list. When you know how the Bible says God removes our sin as far as the east is from the west, and he remembers our sin no more. Now I know sometimes you can't get it out of your mind, but you can't say I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. That's not forgiving. No. I choose not to remember. Basically it says I'll never bring it up again. I will never ever bring it up again. Keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Just a beautiful passage of Scripture. Okay, so look at the top of page 115. I want to read Songs. See what had Songs 8, verse 6. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. Almost like a tattoo, okay? Tattoo. It's just, love is permanent. It's permanent until death do us part. Some of you, it's possible you may have your spouse's name tattooed on you. Or you may have maybe somebody else's name tattooed on you. Have you ever seen the thing? He's got the 3 tattoos marked out, and then Susie down below. Okay, and so, but that's saying I want it permanent. It's permanent. I always tell people, know it's permanent from till death do you part. You want to make sure you want to close the back door. It's not even an option to think of anything else. How about 6b? It says, love is a strong. Jealousy is fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. It says it's jealousy. Love is a strong. Jealousy is a spirit. It's basically beware of jealousy. Beware of jealousy. And it's hard. It's hard. I'm a jealous person. Okay, I'm a jealous person. My wife, when we got married, made a lot more money than I did as a youth pastor, but she was an accountant. We were both accountants before I became into ministry. But she would travel, and sometimes with men like that, and so I would be jealous and get all this and that. She said, okay, she quit her job. I said, no, don't quit your job. And she hadn't worked since, so I don't have any reason to be jealous anymore. But I totally trusted her. But I was just jealous because she worked with men, or she went here and that like that. And love there's no place for that. If you try to trust her because she never did anything. But jealousy can ruin your marriage. How about verse 7? Verse 7. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. Okay? Basically, love endures problems. Don't ever buy the lie that a problem-free marriage. You're going to have problems. I got problems. You got all God's children's got problems. You're going to have problems. So if you think that you're not going to have problems, you're deceiving yourself. The question is, how will you respond to problems? And it's easier to respond by building that fence to keep the foxes out than it is to get the foxes once they're in. Okay. How many of you have grass growing up in your rocks right now? Okay, all this rain right now. My wife does not like the grass, and it's easier. We should have put a plastic coat underneath the rocks when we did this. We should have done that at the beginning. But whatever it is, it's easier to do it at the beginning. But now, or put more rocks there. But now they're growing up, and so now it's harder once they start growing right there. And then verse 7b. If a man offered for love all the wealth of his house, he would be utterly despised. Love is priceless. Millionaires would give everything they have for the love of a man and woman who are totally committed. You can't buy love. And so it's priceless. And all the money in the world can't buy it. It comes from, it's not for sale. Just beautiful. Okay? The Apostle Paul writes about how marriage represents Christ's relationship to his church in Ephesians 5:22 through 33. The Apostle John writes about the second coming of Christ as a marriage feast for Christ and his bride, which is the church. Many theologians believe it is an allegory showing Christ's love for his church. Others believe it is a love poem about a real human love relationship and how we are to display the true love in our marriages. So, a little review. What are the two ways to interpret? Some people say it's an allegory. It's Solomon is God and the bride is Israel. I believe that Solomon was real, and the Shunammite woman was real. But it also shows us how we are to love, and you can see the symbolic nature of God and the church. So, what do we know about the other wives of Solomon in the Bible? He married many other women. And we know that. He had wives and he had concubines, and many of them. And this woman is probably Shunammite. We know she had dark skin, so we don't know that's why some people thought she was the Queen of Sheba. She had dark skin, so there was a region there that some Ethiopians or some people from Ethiopia were there. Other people say it was just working in the sun all the time. Working in the sun, her skin was dark. But many people think that she was a dark-skinned woman, and so she wasn't a native born of the land, possibly, but Solomon married people from many different areas of the world who worship many different gods, and unfortunately, they led him astray to worship other gods. And then, how a Song of Songs is a picture of Christ and the church. It's just Christ loves the church, and we are to love him. Do we talk about our love for Jesus with the same intimacy and affection and adoration and glory as we do talk about the things of this world that we love? Anyway, good book. A couple questions. Anybody? Questions? Yes, Tina. Oh, did I not finish all those? Okay, all right. No more questions, okay? Where I stopped at outside, where did I stop? Okay, the fox of outside interference. Okay, yeah, just don't let things get interfere with your marriage. Whether it be, there's some tough decisions. Even things like, my sister's having a hard time, she's going to come live with us. Well, there's something you might let it for a season, but there's sometimes you got to say no to that for your marriage. You got to say no to that. Interference. Your friends, guys want to have their buddies over to watch the football game, and they're hanging over all the time. You got a couple friends who always want to go out and do things. I'm in the church, so I'm very social because all of my life I'm in the church right there. But on date day, let me tell you, date night, my wife doesn't think of a romantic evening when I go to a Sunday school party potluck with 50 other people. She wants to be special. Do you follow me? So the outside interferences of friends, of jobs, of hobbies, or things like that. I'm not getting into the mother-in-law issue right there, okay? The fox at the back door. I mentioned that, Jan, when I was talking about the permanency of marriage. The back door. divorce should never be an option. Close the back door. When the moment you get married, you should say, we're married for life. That's not going to be an option. If we have problems, we'll get help. But it's not option A, B. It's not we hope we make it. It's no, that door's shut. So we have no choice but to push ahead, to push. That makes you work harder on your problems and work harder in your marriage. And the fox of misunderstanding. Try your best to look at things from your spouse's perspective. You ever heard, men are from Mars, women are from Venus? It's just, my wife, her standards of cleanliness are a little bit higher than mine, okay, And so every time I feel like I'm 6 years, she's cleaning up after me, somebody's been eating in here. I wonder who. I'm the only one here, and so to try to understand where they're coming from, and when you try to see things from their perspective instead of just your perspective, when you understand them, and that's in any type of relationship. We seem to look at it from our point of view. But when you put yourself in the other, as a pastoral counselor, there's usually three sides: his side, her side, and somewhere in the middle. And so you try to look at it from all things. And I love men are from Mars. Or men are like dogs, and women are like cats. All men, ladies, if you just praise him and play with him, and pet him a little bit, he's as happy as he can be. Oh, you're so wonderful. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Good little boy. We're happy as can be. And women, a little fickle at times. 1 minute they're here, 1 minute they're not right there. So it's hard to understand. Today they're here, but the next day they're not. So what I'm saying is, Jan, I think you were talking about the misunderstanding there, or the back door is just the permanence. When you have no other options, you'll work harder on succeeding the one option that you have. That's what I'm talking about, and understanding that. Okay? God in heaven, I love you. Thank you for this book of the Bible that you have included in it, and I pray that you will leave us with words of wisdom that we can apply to our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.